Hey everybody, happy Tuesday night. We got our jazz music playing. We were just saying though that we want to put on some beat music next time, just to find some fun. Well, I think it would be fun. I think it would be a lot of fun. Jazz playing on there. Where are all the people? Where is everybody? If you are watching, please say hello in the chat.
Hello.
Not you. Where are all of our people? We need people to come in and say hello, hello, hello. How is everybody's Tuesday night? Here to talk about tariffs today. Yeah, tariffs. I'm very interested to know everyone else's thoughts. But as you're logging on, listen, if you have been here before, well, if you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, type on track in the comments so we can know you are our people. We'll answer your questions first. No, I'm just kidding. No, really. Anyway, like I said, today talking about tariffs seems like it's just the topic of conversation. In fact, I'd really love to hear you guys' comments as to your thoughts on it, like how much of an impact you think it's going to have on Dallas real estate. Be very interested to know. Yeah, we're interested. We're interested. Okay, question for you. If you were going to explain a tariff to a 10-year-old, how? Oh, no, let me see. Okay. Rhonda, good evening. She says the sound is not good. Now, Rhonda, was it only when the music was playing, or is it still that way now? Sound is not good and clear at times. If it was just when the music is playing, sometimes it does that. I hope it's okay, though. Turn the volume up, too. Okay.
Already up.
Anyway, so, still at times. Okay, I'm not sure what to do about that. You're the Wi-Fi master. What do you think? Internet master? Okay.
Nothing we can do about it right now.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. Maybe lean forward. Does it help if we lean forward and talk? Because that's just no fun if we can't talk to you. We all have the gift of gab here.
Much going on in
Rhonda says getting better. Okay, that's good. That's good. Hey, everybody that's logging on, Rhonda was just letting us know that the sound wasn't coming across real well. So if you notice that where you're at as well, of course, we don't have to ask this of Rhonda, but we were just saying if you have been here before to please type on track in the comments so we can know who we're starting to get to see every week on a regular basis. Now, I had just had you sound good over here. Hey, Amelia, we were just saying we missed you last week. It's good to see you that you're here. Hello, hello, hello. So we have Rhonda and Amelia and two that we know. So these are our people. I'm loving it. I was just asking Dale to tell us if you're going to explain tariffs to a 10-year-old, how would you do it?
It's a tax. Give them some candy and say you're going to have to take some of it back.
Okay.
But it doesn't exactly work that way. It's a tax on selling.
Yeah, I guess so. I would know.
So I don't know how you explain it to a 10-year-old.
How would you explain that?
But say a company here in the U.S. buys product from another country, they're going to get tax on that product. They're going to have to pay a little extra percentage on that product.
Okay. So we've got Purple Drank. It's going to be rough. Purple Drank.
Back.
I feel like I've seen you before too. So this is awesome.
He was here last.
3 of our people. Okay. So if we were to do a poll, we've got Purple Drank saying it's going to be rough.
What's going to be rough?
What? Yeah. You mean the, Rhonda says good explanation. And I agree.
Yeah.
It's not something that the country pays. It's something the individual, corporations pay.
Yeah.
Very true. One thing I didn't think about was just, I don't know why this didn't occur to me, but I guess I had always pictured it being people that lived in those countries paying. But I think there's plenty of Americans that own or do their business across. Like if they own, let's say they produce something in another country, I bet it's hurting them as well. So it's kind of indirectly hurting our don't you think that it would work that way as well? So like, for example, if I owned, I don't know, if I manufactured something, but I did it overseas instead of here, the people here would be hurting, right? If that makes sense. Okay, Rhonda, very, very good. Very good point. China has been robbing us blind.
Yes.
Yeah, Dale feels very strongly about that. All right, let's see. those people chose to do it. That is a very good point. That is a very good point. And I think Trump's whole purpose was, and not that we don't want to go down a political rabbit trail, or is it called a rabbit hole?
Whichever.
Hole. Okay. Anyway, we don't want to have ugly political conversations, but I think his whole point, is he's trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Am I right?
Yeah,
I mean, that just seems to be what I've heard. Of course, what we really want to know, right, is how's it going to affect us locally? I'm just curious, you guys' opinions. Do you think prices are going to go up because of this? Like, what do you think?
I think some prices may go up. And it's partly, I think it's more things, instead of so much going up, I think there's going to be just volatility and just up and down changes and uncertainty. So, I mean, it just depends on the product and stuff, and some will and some won't. And some service companies or some companies will not, because they can't just send the money, the pass on the expense on to, depends on what their product is. They may not be able to pass on their expense, so it may not go up. So
maybe for the short term, but then it will get much better.
Yeah.
Okay. Purple Drink says a lot of electronics will go up. I think I read, was it just today? I think I read that he lifted the ban on like
a lot of electronics.
Some of the electronics, like the phones and whatnot. Yeah. And that the stock market like went way up because of that. As long as I think it's more.
Stock market is emotional.
It really is, isn't it? It's been so volatile. Let's see here now. Well, hello. Companies are starting to stop placing orders, and that will disrupt the supply chain system in the near term. We may see something like COVID again. What kind of companies are you seeing? I'm just curious that are doing that. Are we talking real estate companies, or just because obviously it's not limited to real estate? But that's really good.
I don't know if it'll be as bad as COVID, but it'll be. I'm sure there'll be some items that there'll be some supply chain stuff. Mm-hmm. If it has a lot to do, and I mean, China will probably try to do some stuff to try to block some of that, because they send stuff around different ways and stuff. And so we're trying to not everybody rely on them so much. So
there we go. Okay. Let's see who else. Okay. So I got 2 articles to share with you guys today. The first one kind of gives just like a basic vanilla explanation of, how people are projecting that it'll affect specifically like the housing market. I think it's going to affect, obviously it's not limited to the housing market. Another comment. Let's see what Rhonda has to say. Short-term pain for long-term gain for our country. I think there's plenty of people that feel exactly like you, feeling the same way. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the articles I found. First, I found one that kind of explains it in a very data-driven sort of objective approach of kind of what the consensus is of how, this could affect the housing market. And then I found a really great Dallas Morning News article that when I read about it, I felt pretty good about it. I was just like, not a spoiler alert or anything, but I thought it was a really good article. So let me open that up here. All right. How the Trump administration's tariffs and deportations could affect the housing market. 2 big issues that President Trump campaigned on have the potential to create a massive impact on the housing market. Or do they? That's what I want to know. Are they really going to create? That's my first question. Are they really? It says the potential to. Okay, right. So that's what I want to know. Are they going to? Many experts believe these 2 policies will lead to higher home prices, exacerbating today's already tough home buying market. Okay. And we're going to see that I don't necessarily agree with that. The conversation around these proposals is constantly shifting. So let's break down the possibilities of what tariffs and mass deportations could mean for home values and housing overall. Okay, how could tariffs affect the housing market? April 2, Trump enacted tariffs on goods from several countries at specific rates per country. We all know this. Also threatened further retaliatory tariffs. And then it explains what exactly is a tariff. Okay. Yeah. And so this is, what do you think? Did when you were explaining it for a 10-year-old, do you think you nailed it? Tariffs are taxes collected by the federal government on companies importing goods. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's about what you said. That means a tariff on Canada isn't a fee paid by the Canadian government, but rather a tax paid by a company for bringing a Canadian product into the United States. All of the business owners.
It affects their that country's economy, but it doesn't affect they're not actually, the country itself is not paying it. So
yeah. But I just, to
or
me,
it has the potential of affecting that country's economy.
but it's really going to hurt people, business owners here who chose to produce their product in other countries. It's going to hurt them as well. So it's going to have an impact on our economy from that standpoint. You're going to have all these businesses that are suddenly their costs have gone way up just because they chose to, I mean, that makes sense. If they chose to have their product imported instead of having it built in the USA, not the made in the USA. Let's see. Okay. Definition of tariffs. Okay. Question of the hour. How exactly does this affect housing? Okay. So for starters, think of home building. Much of the lumber used to build new homes in the US comes from, you guessed it, Canada. So if there's a 25% tariff on imported goods from Canada and an American home building company wants to buy 200,000 of Canadian lumber, they'll need to pay an additional 50,000 to import that lumber. Spoiler alert here, Dallas Morning News is going to tell us something a little different.
Yeah, I think they try to make it sound a little bit like there was like a lot of our lumber is coming from Canada, but I'm not sure that's completely true.
Yeah. And that's why I was really glad I found these two articles that kind of offset each other a little bit because the Dallas Morning News article, they're going to say that not all of it comes from Canada at all. So I just found that to be interesting. Okay. They can then choose to pass some or all of that additional cost onto the consumer, says Hamrick, causing home prices to jump. I think they can choose. I don't know that that's necessarily accurate because if the consumer won't support paying a higher price, they can choose all day long and they're just going to have their product sitting there. I mean,
it'll depend on what the demand's like. Yeah. So
yeah.
It's just like when rates go down, most of the builders say they're going to raise prices, but it always depends on what the demand's going to like. And that's usually they say that because they expect the demand to go up. So,
yeah. So, I mean, they can choose all day, but I'm not really sure it's up to them. Any tariffs implemented on construction materials, especially if they're difficult to substitute away from by importing from other countries, would likely have an inflationary effect, making building and renovating homes more expensive. So I think that's idea that it's in the hands of the, for example, builder, whether or not to raise prices. And
it's interesting that they use the word inflationary too, because people think that tariffs cause inflation, but it doesn't. Tariffs do not cause inflation. What causes inflation is too much money in the economy, extra money in the economy. That's what causes inflation.
Yeah, so. Interesting. Well, and I was hoping for a neutral article, but I think we've got some good balance here. The National Association of Home Builders offered specifics in a February 1 statement. Okay, and so here we have NAHB. You would think a credible source saying that more than 70% of the imports of two essential materials that home builders rely on, softwood lumber and gypsum, come from Canada and Mexico. Okay. We're going to see Dallas Morning News says something different. All right. They don't say that it's 70% of it comes from it. So National Association of Home Builders. I would just be like, where did you get your data from? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Tariffs on lumber and other building materials increase the cost of construction and discourage new development. And consumers end up paying for the tariffs in the form of higher home prices. Again, making that flat statement that consumers end up paying. I don't know. I think that they could try, but demand is down in Dallas. And I think they could try all day long, but they're already so motivated to unload their, high inventory that I don't know. So I'm kind of like, is it really going to raise our prices? I'm not sure. Will it cut into the builder's profit? Yeah, possibly. Okay. That's kind of more the way I see it. All right, let's see here now. All right. Along with tariffs, the issue of mass deportation could have an outsized impact on housing, but when and how remain uncertain. Okay, and I've been wondering about this too. While immigration reform certainly seems like a high priority for President Trump, we still don't know what this will look like. he did take multiple actions on day one to slow migration across the U.S. border, but more extreme deportation scenarios haven't been implemented yet. So I think, and I read this in an article recently, and I think it was the Dallas Morning News article. It was saying that the lack of demand and the fact that builders have slowed down, there's actually a surplus of these subcontractors, regardless of this immigration. In the article, one of the guys says that he has builders and bricklayers contacting him for work. So there's actually a lot of hungry workers out there, much less a shortage. We actually have hungry workers, and it's because builders have slowed way down. Their builder sentiment is down, and they're not building as much. So, the deportation, I don't know, maybe other areas, but I don't think it's going to affect Dallas, because right now we have according to that article, we have a surplus, of workers that are trying to find work. All right, let's see here now. All right. Click the like button. Cool. All right. Profit margins on new construction will likely compress a bit. Most have a bit of wiggle room currently. I don't think there's room to pass that cost to buyers. I completely agree. That is exactly how I feel, Humphrey. I think that they probably would like to, and they may, I don't know, try to, but I think ultimately, I think that, they're going to lose some profit. But I just think that they would have a hard time trying to pass it along when we've already got a soft market. Okay. Rhonda says, Trump says we don't need Canada's lumber. We have plenty in the U.S. Lumber mills will probably be increasing production. I think that's really interesting, because the Dallas Morning News article talks about all these other states that they get lumber from. So,
and there's a lot of protected land. So there's,
All right, let's see.
I don't know the numbers on that. I've read some stuff a ways back about, there's a lot more lumber and stuff like that than what we.
If Trump's administration implements the level of mass deportations he campaigned on, it is likely to have a very damaging effect on the housing market, not to mention the economy as a whole. All right, let's see here now. Any restrictions that slow migration or deport immigrants is likely to result in higher construction costs, since immigrants make up roughly 30% of the construction labor force. This would in turn further strain housing supply and push up prices.
Maybe it can help some of our unemployment.
Yeah. And
of course, it is a trade skill that not everybody's going to know, but still.
Yeah.
Maybe they can learn it.
There you go. Well, and again, what I saw, and it was in the Dallas Morning News article directly from the builder, was him saying that he was having all these builders and subcontractors calling him looking for work. Right.
I like purples.
Okay. Yeah. I like this purple drink. I think there is some fear mongering going on. I agree. I completely agree. I think there's a lot. And I think that's like one of the big things that I think is affecting more than anything, like all of these variables, I think is like consumer sentiment. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with the stock market stuff. It's just that people start seeing things happening and they panic a little bit or they fear. And so things are unknown. So they have fear. And they make decisions that are not always great.
Yeah. Listen, if you're just joining us, tell us where you're from. Where are you viewing from? I'm just curious to know. So drop your location in the chat or just say hello. Love that too. All right. Trade needs to come back strong. We need those jobs back. That is true. And I think that's his objective, I think. Okay. Any restrictions? Okay. Did we read that? Yeah, we did. The NAHB projects that America will need about 2.2 million new skilled construction workers in the next 3 years to overcome the current housing deficit. That to me is kind of a loaded statement, because I just really don't think that we have a housing shortage. I think we have an affordable housing shortage. But when you hear people saying, we're 50 million houses short or whatever they say, I'm like, no, we're not. The reason I believe that is because I think that the numbers that they go off aren't accurate. I think they don't collect all the data from the builders. So they miss a lot of new construction inventory that's out there, especially if they're just going off of what's on the MLS. I just think they're missing so much when they, I did a whole video on that once where I really just broke everything down, and I was like, there's no housing shortage, really went down the rabbit hole with that one. That was a beast for how much research that one took. Okay. So I don't know if I agree with that about housing deficit. Okay. Deportations could negatively affect the supply of labor, including for the construction industry. After all, immigrants also work, consume, and pay taxes, contributing to economic growth. If they are lessened or no longer present in the U.S., that diminishes economic activity. So that's an interesting point as well. Let's see here. So they work, they consume, they pay taxes. What do you think?
Also paying taxes does not really affect the economy. So
that's interesting.
There's economic data that proves that too. So
interested to hear your thoughts there, guys. Please comment. I loved this one. I was like, in the end, while much ink has been spilled on what could happen due to the new administration's policies, what actually will happen is still fluid. Exactly. That's the kind of sentence that makes me want to say truer words were never spoken, because I think it's like, one day this is going to happen and there's this high tariffs. And then the next day it's like, well, he's not doing that now. And instead he's going to do this. And I'm like, it's just all so fluid. And then you have him changing his mind, and you've got, the stock market, like riding the wave, basically. It's like, it goes up and down, just like the tariffs do.
It's a little bit like negotiations though, because you can start out with one, a certain level of what you're trying to get, and then you may change that a little bit depending on how the responses are. So
it's true. By the way, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat, because we're always happy to answer any questions you have, new construction, pre-owned, anything about the housing market. Drop it in the chat and we'll get to it after the article. So definitely send us your questions, communities, new construction, you name it. Let's see. Questions involving tariffs and deportations and their specific impacts are difficult to answer because we know very little about the specifics. Okay. In other words, we don't know exactly. We don't know how this is going to work out. Okay. So that was like your broader national look of, the articles. And then this one is your local. Okay. We're bringing it to Dallas. Okay. Bringing it to Dallas. DFW home builders started slower in 2025. Tariffs could make it worse. And I can tell you right now, that is very true, that the home builders not building as much, and their sentiment is lower. Okay. They've got a lot of inventory. There's just a lot of good opportunities right now. Home builders are hurting. They are. I just finished a video about it that'll go out in a couple of weeks, where I just kind of went through the stats and talked about, what's going on for them, that they're hurting. And I think too, this is where we're going to see that worry about a shortage of labor is not really relevant for here. Okay. Dallas, Fort Worth home builders got a slower start to 2025 as buyer demand slowed and firms worked to deplete a stockpile of inventory. They must now contend with a rapidly changing economic picture around them. Yeah, I think there have been massive changes. It's been crazy from September to now. I think we've seen so many changes.
I think back talking to some builders, I see some of this now too, when there's some new phases, and they're like, well, we don't know when we're going to start on those phases yet. So, yeah.
And I've actually talked to two buyers just this week, who said that they had a plan to buy in a specific community. And then the builder or the sales consultant had said, we're opening up this phase as such. And so we're talking new builds. We're opening up this phase, and they had already picked out a lot and everything. And when the time came, the sales consultant said the builder has chosen not to begin that phase. And so they were like, well, now what? Like they had their house all picked out, the floor plan they wanted, they had picked out the lot. And then they're just like, well, the builder has pulled back and is not choosing to, be expansionary in that way. So it's definitely, I definitely agree with this title. Okay. Potential tariffs cast shadows over the industry, leaving the road ahead unclear. President Donald Trump backed down on most reciprocal tariffs for 90 days this week, but raised tax rates on Chinese imports to 145% on Thursday. Cast shadows. I love it. I don't love it, but it's just a good image. Builders who spoke with the Dallas Morning News said they aren't feeling any negative impacts from the tariff uncertainty yet. However, suppliers have warned builders of potential price increases. Builders worry they may be forced to absorb rising costs. So they know, and I'm going to read more in a minute, they know that they're not just going to be able to pass this along to the consumer.
Right.
They already know. All right, let's see here now. Others, and I think this is a really good point. Others worry more about buyers. The volatility could further weaken consumer confidence and demand. Yeah. And I am seeing and hearing that a lot with all of our new buyers that I'm talking with and meeting with on a regular basis. I'm just hearing this recurring theme of when will the market settle down? I hear that a lot. And well, we're just kind of in a wait and see, and we're not sure what the market's going to do. And it's all about consumer confidence. I think that we're really hurting with that consumer confidence right now, market sentiment. All right, let's see here now. I'm more concerned about the psyche. Did you say that psyche? Psyche of the consumer than I am about ongoing cost pressure. Okay, so think about that statement right there. He is more concerned about how the consumer is viewing the market, how the consumer is feeling about it. He sees that as a bigger deal than cost pressure. General manager of Shattuck Homes. I don't think any of us in home building really know exactly how it's going to pan out. We're all kind of in uncharted waters right now. So consumer sentiment, man, the builders are worried. There's a lot of worry there. The psyche of the consumer, how the consumer feels about the market, whether they feel it's like a risky time to buy or not. Okay. Tariffs could add to that pressure. The threat of tariffs may put additional stress on the region's home building industry. 3 builders who spoke with the Dallas Morning News said they're unclear about how tariffs may affect their business. There aren't imminent threats of significant increases, and there's nothing imminent here. However, roofers, tile suppliers, HVAC companies, and others have warned them of potential price increases. Wait, I got to read this here, read a couple comments here. Rhonda said, steel industry coming back too. And JA says, what builders or communities? Okay, so I'm going to come back to yours, JA, since we'll talk about housing here in a minute, answer your questions. Purple Giant, good point he brought up. Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to make sure I understand which point you're thinking of, but if it's that one, I completely agree that he's more concerned about the psyche of the consumer. Mm-hmm. I think it's just a general fear, general unease. I don't know. It's interesting because I always think, you hear like in the stock market that you should buy when everyone else is selling, when there's fear in the market. And I'm just like, does that play out in the housing market as well? When you've got a lot of people pulling back.
If they're trying to bring more demand in.
Yeah. So if you've got a lot of people who won't. Yes.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think we've got more of a consumer issue than anything else. Okay. Tariffs could add pressure. Read that one. We've been getting a lot of letters from suppliers warning us about potential cost increases due to the tariffs. Said Don Dijkstra, co-founder of Bloomfield Homes. Okay. We know Bloomfield. The firm is one of the region's top 5 home builders by volume, but it seems like people are taking a wait and see approach before enforcing the increases. All right. Trump. Now, this is, I think, an interesting and a very important one. Trump opted not to add a reciprocal 10% tariff on Canadian lumber, keeping the tariff rate at 14.5%. The National Association of Home Builders expects the rate will move higher later this year. And this is that part where I was saying it's confusing. Builders in DFW rely on lumber sourced from parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, along with other domestic sources. However, a portion of wood used as studs is sourced from Canada. language said. So that kind of almost, you could say that kind of almost kind of conflicts with that first article where it made it sound,
I think they
like,
were just trying to make it sound worse than what it was. But.
Yeah, I mean, because you've got although it was the National Association of Home Builders partly saying that too.
They're political.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, you guys need to show me the data here. We need to go to like Statista or something like that to see what the real truth is there. Okay, let's see here now. When lumber was removed from tariff exposure, it was almost as if there's a breath of life back in the home building market. He said tariffs are being monitored, but not feared.
Wow.
So that's an interesting, let's see here now. Did I already do that one? Have you guys heard from builders if foreign entities start selling off mortgage-backed securities, that may impact mortgage rates? That's a very good point.
Yeah.
The mortgage-backed securities. I know that the Fed has backed off on their quantitative tightening, so that will impact that as well. That's kind of the way they can loosen up the credit without, without directly lowering rates.
But we haven't seen any direct effect on that yet with the builder rates yet.
Yeah.
So only if they're paying money to incentivize people to come in and buy lower rates. So that's it.
I definitely keeping my options open after my visit in June, because that was almost a year ago. Wow. Because with how things are changing, 10 months. Options have to be open. My budget won't change, but exercising options, I think that's wise. I think you should always go in as an informed buyer. If you're going to buy, go in informed. Always plan it out. Mainstream media doesn't always tell the truth. You think? Yeah, I agree with you there, Rhonda, for sure. Absolutely. Again, no truer words were ever spoken. The country's largest builders are keeping an eye on tariffs too. Lennar, country's second largest home builder by volume, said in its earnings call in late March that it is discussing potential tariff impacts with its supply chain. To date, we have had no impact to our cost from tariffs. So I think that seems to be like the resounding, of what we're hearing is that they're not actually seeing any changes.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah. If supply costs increase dramatically, Henkla said this is the really important part that I was referring to earlier. If supply costs increase dramatically, Henkla said he doesn't think the extra cost could be passed on to the buyer. Boom. Many customers are maxed out on what they can afford, and builders have become more reliant on rate buy downs and other incentives to sell homes. So, that Henkla, he's the guy with Bloomfield, I think, right? And I think guys that we have some truth there. I think that the builders are going to be hurting profit wise, right? But I just don't know I just don't think successfully.
There's not just enough demand yet for them to build that up yet. So,
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, they may want to raise prices. That doesn't mean they can, So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that prices are going to go up if, and as I guess the tariffs come into play? Because it seems like, what it's saying here is that they don't have that choice. I'm sure they would like to, but builders may be forced to eat any potential increase or get creative. The recent pause helps, Dijkstra said. That may be the end of the article. Yes, that is the end of the article. Very curious about you guys' thoughts. Mundy Hill has, I think, a very good point. Scare tactic. Yeah. I think there's a lot of scare tactics going on. Just all these implications of what could happen, and this it's all nebulous, and when reality, nothing's really happening. All these builders are saying, yeah, prices haven't changed for us.
And any smart financial people, business people that's what they're gonna look at anyway. They're not gonna try to make any rash decisions.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of talk. Not really any change. Just a lot of people are watching the market. And again, I think your biggest deterrent to the market is consumer sentiment. I think the scare tactics probably are affecting people, Let's see. I think if prices go up, the APR has to come down without the consumer to rate pay down.
Yeah.
Very good point. All right. Let me see. I think I had a question up here about the housing market, or not about the housing market, about something specific. So let's see here now. What builders or communities would you recommend for a budget of $600,000? Okay. We are open to Frisco, McKinney, Allen, Little Elm, and Prosper. Let me ask you this. You said builders or communities. So JA, are you talking about new construction only? Or are you talking about like anything, specifically to communities?
Builders in those areas, it's going to be tough finding anything 600 below 6. I mean, there are some, but I don't know in those areas. Maybe Little Elm.
Well,
there's really no building going on in Allen.
Very true. I think McKinney. Builders,
maybe.
I think you
if
could
if you're going on the east side of McKinney, which is almost Princeton, so that way. But
So Frisco, and one thing you didn't say here is like house preferences, right?
Like I kind of looked at some
new
of this
construction. Got it.
Before it was out that way east of 75 in that area, you're looking at like Pace Setters and History Maker and maybe Meritage.
You've definitely got Meritage out there.
I'm trying to think what was the other ones I saw. If you want a lot less, you can go like Starlight. There's some Ashton Woods lower, but not. They've been pushing their prices more. And now they have Starlight to do their lower end. I think Ashton Woods has been doing more, a little bit, trying to push a little more higher end stuff.
So Frisco,
not.
I don't know. How about Frisco Fields? You got, and one thing you didn't say
600?
either, you got townhomes and your 40-foot lot lines that maybe you could kind of be in.
Yeah, that's the other thing you have to look at.
Like you haven't mentioned like whether it could be a townhome, if it has to be a single family home, and also lot line, because boy, you can get a lot more bang for your buck if you get those 40-foot lot lines. But you need to know that not many people like those 40-foot lot lines. If you're going to get a 40-foot lot line, you really have to have a community that's going to support that lack of desirability.
Because in Frisco also they have Villages on the Main and Hazelwood, which are all like 40-foot or townhomes.
So Allen, really not going to find much of anything in there. That's like pre-owned home territory. Prosper and Frisco both going to be on the cost prohibitive side. But if you're willing to go like with a 40-foot lot line or a townhome, okay, those are potentially options more in Frisco and less so in Prosper. McKinney probably honestly is going to have the most for you in that price range. And Dale nailed it. You've got South Ridge and East Ridge. You've got so many communities, but you're right, they're more on that east side. So McKinney school's not as good. I mean, if you could score a home in Frisco or Prosper, you're going to have like better, highly rated schools. And we all know that property values tend to kind of go hand in hand with schools. Little Elm, a little bit of new construction. Little Elm's issue is the school ratings are pretty low. And so people can kind of, not everybody cares. Some people be like, school ratings don't affect me. I get buyers a lot that say that. I'm not concerned about school ratings. I got a buyer right now who's like, listen, Wendy, this is my dream home. This is my forever home. I couldn't care less about schools. I just want what I like. Okay. So not everybody does, but sometimes that can be impacted. Little Elm can be impacted because they don't have good school ratings. So I would say community-wise, big picture, that you're going to see, the most you're going to find is McKinney.
Yeah.
Now, Humphrey here makes an excellent point. He says Salina would have a ton of options. Absolutely. You're completely right, Humphrey. They would. Salina, you would find options in Salina.
More so,
I just did a whole video on 5 communities under 400,000 in Salina, and there was plenty. There was plenty there and plenty of builders. So you're right. Absolutely. Not within cross price, a little harder, but
the fields. Yeah, there are a lot of 33, 35, and 40-foot lots. So if you like the real small stuff close together.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in order to get in those nicer suburbs, you really have to sacrifice on the lot size. I know Frisco Fields, they were having some pretty deep discounts in Frisco Fields and a lot of overpricing. All right, what is a good percent to budget for new construction home? And that's a great question. I don't know that it's a whole lot different. Good percent to budget. I don't know that it's a whole lot different from a pre-owned home, right? I think you've got to be conservative either way. Your big wild card with new construction is, of course, the property taxes. You really, really want to make sure and be a very active participant with your lender when you buy new construction and make sure they're setting up your escrow based on what the taxes will become, not what they are currently. Okay. And plan on, about what you paid for it. Okay. Otherwise, what is a
Yeah,
good
you're
percent?
Probably because your insurance is, well, if it's a bigger home, your insurance is going to be higher, and if you're and your property taxes are going to be higher. So
Yeah. Okay. And also, depending on where you buy the new construction, you also have to take things into consideration like PIDs and MUDs and HOA fees, right? So just make sure what you're in terms of budget, as you know, obviously, like I'm going to say the lowest as you can, whatever your lender pre-approves you for percent to budget, go with less. And then just be aware of PIDs, MUDs, okay, HOA fees, because with new construction, all of that can really pile up depending on where you're buying. With Salina, man, it's like 9 out of 10 are going to have a PID.
Yeah.
All right. I love this.
And some of the other thing to think about is the HOAs too. Some of them are nicer. Depends on what kind of community you get. Your HOAs could be higher too.
Okay.
Yep.
Purple Drink, I am 100% with
North
you
Sky.
on this one. I love North Sky. I absolutely love North
way
Sky
up.
community. It is way up north in Salina, and it is in Salina ISD, which is not rated as highly.
But it's by all the schools.
Yeah, that is true. But
There's a ton of schools right there.
If you're buying
the high school
yeah.
and intermediate schools and new elementary schools,
and I'm telling you, where else are you going to buy under 400,000 with $800,000 houses across the street?
Yeah.
All right. North Sky is incredible if you're buying under 400,000. I made a video where I ranked all of the Salina builders under 400,000, the communities, and North Sky absolutely came in first place. It was like way up here and the others were all down here.
I'm guessing though. So what's the other community up there to the west of it? The new one, the huge one that's being built up there.
I know exactly. Legacy.
Legacy. I mean, I'm guessing some of those are going to be lower because there's some lower end builders up in there.
Is it Legacy Hills? I just did a video on it, but it's escaping me at the moment. Honestly, Legacy got last place for me out of the ones, the communities. Yeah, because there were so many low end and there wasn't really diversity.
It's like 15, well, but they just got started too. But there's like 15 different builders.
Yeah, and almost all of them are your really cheap low builders. That's why Legacy got such a low rating for me. It's like Lennar, DR Horton, Starlight. I mean, every low end builder you can think of, is like building in that one community. And yeah, the community is huge, but there's no Normandy, there's no Perry, there's no Highland. It's just all these cheap builders. So that was my impression is Legacy Hills. Yeah, Legacy Hills. If I had to choose between Legacy Hills and North Sky, it would be North Sky all day long.
There's definitely a lot of $300,000 and $400,000, $500,000 homes.
Absolutely, there are a ton. Okay.
And the fields, I looked at the fields right now. There's nothing under 700,000 on the MLS.
Yeah. All right. Does the builder, specifically Normandy, clean up construction trash, beer cans, and food around the job site before putting up insulation and the drywall? Well, they should.
Normandy is real good about that kind of stuff. At least the Normandy dealings I've had with, and the construction managers I've talked with on that. They're like, basically the words I've been told is like, then they talk to their laborers. He goes, I'm not your mom. I'm not your mother. I'm not your mama. You'll clean up after yourself. So.
Yeah. And I think too, like the thing you have to think about that KY is going to be community specific. That's a very micro local thing because it's about project management at the community.
There's some builders that you'll push a little bit more that kind of brings that sentiment. I would say like Normandy, Highland, Shattuck, those higher end ones like that. Definitely higher end builders are going to be that way. But no, Highland is real particular about how they do things too.
So if you ever see consistency across multiple communities, you're dealing with an excellent builder because consistency across communities is something that they struggle with the most, I think. Okay. Purple Drink, thank you. I am a disabled vet. Boy, I kind of I'm sad you're disabled, but also sort of hoping that it's 100% so you don't have to pay property taxes.
Yeah.
That would be my own. There you go. I know that's a weird thing. Thank you for your service. Yes, we say the same thing. Thank you. And he says, thank you. Thank you.
Did you look at
okay. Veronica says, have you had any experience with Stone Hollow Homes? What's your opinion of this builder?
I've seen it, but I haven't really seen a lot.
We've seen it, but we haven't done any closings with Stone Hollow yet. Dale's going to maybe look it up a little bit here.
I'm trying to remember where I saw them.
Yes, I am 100%. That is so great. I mean, it's not great. Please just understand. I'm saying that if you don't have to pay property taxes, that part is great. I love. We've helped at least one other buyer buy in without any property taxes, and it was just like, yes, you don't have to pay property taxes. You earned this, and now you don't have to pay them. Well, I don't see any other questions other than Veronica's. Does anybody else have any questions out there? Okay, very good. Got another one. How do you feel about Coventry homes? Okay, so Coventry homes, it's a mixed bag. They build some I love their designs. I love what they do with their roof lines. I think they're very unique. You can see a lot of very similar architecture, but they've just got this thing where the back of the roof is elevated above the front. I just really find it very striking.
Well, and they have some nice plans too, where they are one of the builders that do more with having the extra bedroom downstairs with a full bath with it. So they kind of work on that generational suite type situation like that. They do a lot for upgrades in the kitchen, things like that, living spaces. Yeah, they're very open. They're nice looking homes, definitely. We have not. I have done some negotiations with them and stuff, and they'll work with you. But it depends. That always depends on the neighborhoods too. So, but yeah.
We're actually currently working on a builder review video about Coventry where we're pulling together a lot of information. One thing I don't like and that I feel pretty strongly about not liking is that they only offer a 110 warranty. So if you put, for example, Coventry next to Perry and they both build a really beautiful home, Perry Homes has a 2-10 warranty, meaning 2 years for workmanship, 2 years for systems, and 10 year for structural, right? And they service it themselves. And then you have Coventry, who literally only offers a 110. Like they skip the middle step altogether. They do 1 year on workmanship and 10 years on structural. That's it. And so that anytime I also see that with Dries Homes is the same way. I don't like that.
And Dries are really nice looking homes too.
They are.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
They're a gorgeous home, but you know what? If you've got such a good quality home, why are you not? Why are you not willing to offer a better warranty? That's my thought.
But I've seen builders in general just kind of pulling back on the warranties more and more. So, but yeah.
I am under contract and the new home next to me went on sale. Do I get to renegotiate the price with the builder before closing on the home?
Probably not.
No.
The most I've seen, I have asked for like other incentives or like appliances and things like that. Sometimes it get thrown in, but yeah, it's in the price unless they do something wrong or something like that. I mean, it's already in the contract. That'll be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is the real answer is read your contract. See if there's some allowance for that, and there's not going to be.
Well, you can always ask. Here's the thing:
True.
You don't really have a way out on the contract from that standpoint. So
yeah.
Depends on where you're at, I guess. I mean, but with the construction, if you're already working on your financing and stuff, basically the only way you get out with your earnest money with a builder is if your financing doesn't work out within the time frame that they allow you to get that done, or if the builder just doesn't perform and they mess up or something. But
you know what? I just finished. I'll be recording a video tomorrow where I'm talking about like price tactics and pricing deception, and I'm talking about Devonshire. And there is this one that I'm going to use an example where two houses that are identical are right next door to each other, and one buyer paid $45,000 more for the same house, the same upgrades. One paid market value, one is upside down. And it's pricing tactics. And can you imagine those neighbors getting together and talking? That just would not be, and they closed within a week of each other. It was not even that there was a timing gap. It's just one had a terrible realtor who didn't have
a realtor at all.
Well, it was on the MLS. So you would think, but it could have been a realtor that didn't provide representation, but ouch. Imagine how upsetting that would be to find that you were upside down. What do you think about Cambridge Crossing at Salina and also about Union Main Builder? I love the entrance to Cambridge Crossing. I mean, it is just gorgeous, and it's just so stately and welcoming at the same time.
It looks like a nice spread out community. They do have on the south side a lot of 40-foot lots, 40, 45-foot lots there, so a little bit bunched in a little bit there more, but on the rest of it is big. Union Main, I've looked at several Union Main homes. I haven't really dealt with the builder that much yet. They make some fairly nice homes, some mid-range nice homes, not too badly priced. These tend to, in some communities I've seen where they do a lot of 3-car garages for some reason. I'm not sure what, but yeah.
You know what? Now we need to get some buyers who either want to, if you're out there, come see us. We need to help somebody buy a Union Main and a Stone Hollow so that we can give you more information about them. So reach out to us so we can help you buy it.
I mean, Stone Hollow is in a lot more from the previous one. They're in a lot more communities. I see them a lot out northeast. So yeah. And Union Main, what was I gonna say? They do a lot of smaller homes too. So like they're one of the bigger they're one of the main builders in Union Park and Little Elm or Aubrey, whatever that part right there.
You know, something interesting about Cambridge Crossing and something to think about, NP. I don't know if you're considering multiple ones, but Cambridge Crossing is much bigger. But what Dale was saying about the 40-foot lot lines, and part of the reason I talk about how much I love North Sky is that North Sky has these 40-foot homes across the street from these $800,000 homes, American Legend and Perry. Right across the street, you have these 40-foot homes, right? And so, you know, granted, you know, American Legend may not like that, right? But it's so mixed in and so much architectural diversity versus Cambridge Crossing. Like Dale said, they've got their 40-foot lot lines segmented off on their own, right? And so I love, part of the reason you see me get excited about North Sky is because it's just the way the developer set everything up to be mixed in like that. I really
kind of
like
Pecan
that.
Square mixed it like that a little bit.
Yes,
and then, but then there's like Painted Tree has like a whole section of it's just like one of their whole sections is all smaller lots. So
yeah. All right. You are so welcome. Sure. Thanks much. And how Salina ISD compares to Prosper ISD? Well, that is a really easy one. Prosper blows them out of the water.
Well, are you going off of the TEA?
Well, and greatschools.org.
Okay, good.
Okay, greatschools.org.
I'm sorry.
On greatschools.org in Salina ISD, 100% of the students scored average. Okay, that's not that's bad. In Prosper ISD, I think 95% of the students scored above average. So that's a pretty big difference. And you see it in values. Literally, I've seen grand homes where you get the identical home in Salina ISD cheaper, Prosper ISD way more expensive. Okay, so between the two, literally the only difference is like the school system.
Yeah,
you know. So
I know there's still work, but they building a lot of new schools up there. So yeah.
So let's see here now. We're gonna have to run here pretty soon because I know we got dinner ready. What is your opinion about Mattamy homes at Sutton Fields? No high ceilings, but decent square footage. What do you think? Zone to Prosper school. That is the benefit to Sutton Fields is you've got a lower price point. Zone to Prosper ISD. Disadvantage of Sutton Fields is getting out on that road. I mean, they just need to put a light there and prove. I've heard so many people say they won't consider Sutton Fields just because of the access to that main road and how backed up it gets, like in the morning hours and in the evening hours.
Mattamy's one of the lower mid-range builders. I mean, they're not bad looking homes. They're just, you know, they're not going to be your real big, nice open homes.
Right. Like you said, no high ceilings. Yeah. All right. Let's call this the last question. Which community is better, Mustang Lake or 10 Mile Creek in Salina? I believe they are Prosper ISD. What are your opinions on that? Mustang versus 10 Mile Creek.
I've been in Mustang Lake more. Right. Mustang Lake, I know, has some really high-end homes too. I don't remember what's in 10 Mile Creek. It's been a little while since I've been there.
I am going to always advocate for a more mixed community that has low end plus higher end. with you being on the low end. So for example, if you're buying $1 million home, mix it in with $2 million homes, right? If you're buying a $500,000 home, make sure you've got $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 homes mixed in. So he's looking it up. I'm not super familiar with 10 Mile Creek. I am Mustang.
Highland.
He's looking at it. Okay, Highland.
Let's see.
He's doing a Meet the Builders right now. Okay, American Legend.
William Ryan,
Mhm.
American Legend.
Grenadier.
That Grenadier is like
the townhomes. Yeah, those don't look
William
very nice.
Ryan. So I thought I saw a Highland too, but maybe they're done.
Yeah.
So
American Legend, I think they're a good builder. William Ryan Homes not had a good experience with them.
So 10 Mile Creek. Okay, I remember.
A big difference,
I remember where it is too. 10 Mile Creek is a lot smaller than Mustang Lake. Mustang Lakes is a very large community. So
Veronica, thank you so much. Thank you both and have a great evening. I hope you had a great evening. Come back and visit us again on Tuesday night. Bring your drinks and we'll sit and sip together. 10 Mile Creek is nestled within the Salina Independent, and offers a top-notch network of schools close to home. All day long, we get buyers who say, I want Salina within Prosper ISD, and they won't even consider Salina ISD. So our higher end buyers are quite specific on that.
Yeah, it's up there a little bit north, right off of Outer Loop.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both. Well, thank you for joining us today and chatting. It's always our fun Tuesday night highlight. And then we go and have some dinner after this. So hope you guys have some dinner as well. Rhonda says, thank you both. Rhonda, thank you. Love seeing you again.
Thanks,
as well.
Purple Drink.
All right. Thank you, guys. And we will talk again soon. See you next week. All right. Oh, wait, a couple more comments. Got to show these. Okay. Thank you. And you are awesome, Wendy.
Of course she is.
You're not. You're not. I'm the awesome one.
You're awesome.
Now let's see here now. I can imagine how much hard work you put in. I do. I am the absolute researcher constantly. All right. Well, you guys have a great and wonderful evening, and we will see you again next week.
Good night.
Good night.